Safety and Health, and Dangerous Goods Safety Advisor with over 13 years of multi-sectorial experience. It's about systematic change and improving business and organizational performance by applying environment, health, and safety culture transformational changes in different organizations. He worked as HSE manager in the chemical manufacturing, previously worked in other sectors such as semiconductor manufacturing, telecommunications, pharmaceutical, agro-food processing, and oil and gas. He is a trained lead auditor in ISO 14015, ISO 45000 2018, and ISO 9001 2015, and has solid experience in auditing and implementing management systems. He is an EHS leader, mentor, and coach with 8 years of EHS management experience, and previously served as IOSH Council member and IOSH West Africa branch vice chair. With a resounding round of applause, can we welcome our speaker? You can see he has all the experience we need for this session. So let's welcome him to the platform. You have the floor, Jason. You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Dise. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity I've been given to speak on this platform. Let me just start by sharing my screen. Yeah, I said I really appreciate the opportunity I've been given to speak on this platform, and I tell you, we aren't much on the call, so and this I was told this session is going to be an interactive session. So I'll start off by calling you all one after the other and saying thank you for joining on a Saturday. So thank you, Abanom, Obina, Linda, Femi Abiodun, Michael, Augustina, Rashid, Gote, Victor, Aziz, Ambrose, Bami, Azubike, Okoyo, apologies, and Samuel Etunwa. Apologies if I mispronounced your name, or you know, if I missed you out. You know, I just wanted to say thank you because it's Saturday, and I appreciate you joining the call. It's a session for emerging safety professionals, but it's one that's beneficial for all EHS professionals wherever you are on your career journey. Thank you to ASSP for the role it plays in occupational health and safety advocacy and education in Nigeria. Many of you may easily associate me with as a volunteer with IOSH, but it might surprise you to know that I've been an ASSP member longer than I've been an IOSH member. And thank you so much, for inviting me, because this year is a significant year for me professionally, and not just as a safety professional, but as a member of the American Society of Safety Professional. And I really wanted to, make it as interactive as possible and share my journey with you, and perhaps inspire one or two professionals on this. So I have two screens before me. So just in case you see me looking the other way, I'm trying to focus on the audience, but I'm still trying to walk through my slides. So to start off, I'll start off by sharing you this next slide, which is an interesting picture. For as long as you promise not to laugh. Yeah, apologies. This is a very blurry picture. I'm sure you can tell that whoever took this picture is probably not a professional. I take excuse because it wasn't me. I was in the picture, so it probably wasn't me taking the picture. I really can't recognize, who the young man in gray suit there is. When I saw this picture, I couldn't recognize myself. I'm sure you'll get the Google Stories on your phone. 5 years, it just comes up on your phone and it says, your stories from 5 years ago, or your stories from X number of years ago. So this one came up not too long ago, and I said, oh, this will be a great slide to put a great picture to put in my slide. And perhaps I'd throw this question open, and it's a rhetorical question. You could probably answer in your mind or probably put in the chat. When do you think this picture was taken? 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 20 years ago? Um, well, you might guess. You may have guessed right, maybe not. Well, but this picture was taken 10 years ago. So this was the professional development conference in 2015, and it was an ESSP conference. I thought I included because we're talking about networking here, and this was one of the most significant networking events that really catalyzed my professional growth. And that's what we're talking about today, how communication and how networking are tools for professional growth. Now, on this picture too, you also have three other professionals. They were speakers in that conference. It was a 3-day conference. And then in the middle with the red jacket, lovely jacket that I remember complimenting him on it is Rodriguez Jr. From the US. And then the next gentleman after Rodriguez, with his hands in his pocket, is Ibokwe Chuks, CSP, Certified Sales Professional, and the fourth gentleman there is Julius Rhodes. Now, this conference was in 2015. It was in Federal Palace Hotel. um, I just joined ASSP as a member, that year. And talking about that, that makes me about 10 years being an ASSP member. And really thanks for being a member of this professional institution, um, and which has helped to really, really help me. Now, in this same conference, there was Dakwa Molade. That was the first time I was meeting him. There was Jamu Badmos. There were a lot of professionals here. Really, really, really great EHS leaders. Now, Julius Rhodes and Rodriguez, they came all the way from the US to support the SSP conference. Fantastic conference. Food was good. Yeah, people were good. Now, besides all of that, um, this was me in my, early career days. You could call me an emergency, an emerging EHS professional there. I don't know what I looked like then. My wife saw this picture and she said, yesterday when I prepared my slides, and she said, Esther was black and broke. Esther Simoni. And well, you can complete the rest, if you understand what that means. But I'm going to pretend like I don't know what that means. Now, I won't get sidetracked with this story on this picture. I'm going to come back to it, but that just gives us, the premise to really talk about why we're here, communication and networking. I'm going to come back later in this on my presentation to tell you more about how this networking event was really instrumental and pivotal to my growth. Now, but again, one thing I love about ASSP is, if you're an ASSP member, you know that recently um, ASSP has relaunched its values, and the values, you might be aware, they stand for CLEAR, CLEAR. Now, CLEAR means CLEAR for community, L for leadership, E for excellence, A for accountability, R for respect. And each of those values means something. So for us community, we got that sense of belonging. you know as leaders, wherever you are in your career journey, regardless of the fact of your title, EHS manager, you are a leader. And that means that as leaders, we have to do what we know how to do best. We have to promote a positive health and safety culture, and protect people and environment, and talk about excellence. We want to strive to do our best, accountability, committed, integrity, and then respect. Now, if you look at all the values, communication is just integral to all of that? How can we, you know, how can we as leaders do what we do without communicating? You know, we show respect when we listen to each other, and that is communication. So what we're going to talk about is communication and networking. So we're basically going to start off with with why it's important for us in HSE, and talk about, you know, talk about talk about networking, and then um, come back to round off with my story, and you look at conclusion and recommendations of what we can do as we grow in our journey. Because but again, effective communication, like we said, is critical to HSE. Health, safety, environment, to prevent incidents, and that's what we stand for as professionals. We want to improve workplace safety. Yes, we want to um, we want to promote a positive culture. We want our organizations to be compliant. That's why we're there. And we can't do that without communicating. Networking too helps HSE professionals stay updated on industry trends. So when we network, when we attend networking events, we get updated on the most recent trends. Sometimes these trends are presented in the conferences or in forums where we also keep abreast of best practices in the different industries or the different fields, because HSC is so broad and multidisciplinary. So that's what we benefit on from, as well as regulatory changes, amendments, legislation updates. We get all of that without when we get all those updates from when we're attending networking events. And in 2018, 2019, talking about strong communication and networking skills, INSPO, you might know INSPO is the International Network of, Health and Safety Professional Organizations. It came together and they published this framework. They call it the Professional Capability Framework. It's right there in the public domain, and they listed knowledge and skill matrix for practitioners and professional. In there, at the core is communication. I'm also a member of IOSH, and IOSH has what we call the competency framework with 69 defined competencies around technical, core, and behavioral skills. Communication is also in there. Now, it doesn't mention networking skills explicitly, but it mentions learning organization, and that's the whole idea of networking, which is about being out there, getting up to date with best practices and sharing and learning. And that is really, really important. So strong communication and networking skills are essential for career growth and professional development. Because in the end, we're not just here to, to promote health and safety. We want to grow, and growth could mean growth in your um in transition of your role. Okay, we want to grow, say, from an EHS officer to or HSE officer or advisor to an assistant HSE manager to a manager. We want to also grow in terms of our salary. Yes, we want to grow in terms of our growth, our, our our skills and knowledge. We want to be able to develop skills relevant for our practice and then be recognized for it. So that is growth. But communication and networking really core to this. But now let's just look at communication generally. Communication is such a broad topic. And I tell you, I'm not here to school everyone on communication in half an hour, because that is what people go to school to study, mass comm or public administration, and they do communication as a whole semester or module in the semester. Some people, go to the university and study communications engineering as a branch of electrical and electronics engineering. No, I'm not going to, you know, talk about communication. It's not something that I can cover exhaustively. But in simple definition, we all understand. Communication is the process of exchanging information ideas and messages. And this could be between individuals, it could be between groups, or it could be between organizations. So just like the picture depicts, you got two people, one is trying to communicate and the other is trying to also understand or comprehend. So communication is a process. You have someone is encoding a signal and transmitting the signal through a medium, and then the other individual, organization, or other party at the other end also receives, decodes, and then understands, and then perhaps if on better understands, gives shares feedback. So that that is as simple as it gets. So in terms of communication, it's basic understanding. We all know this. So it recently I had opportunity to work in 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 a semiconductor manufacturing company, and I've worked in that organization for about 2.5 years, um, about 2 years, yeah. And really, I've worked as the HSE manager here in the UK. They're into laser commercial production, but into production of microchips, and these microchips goes into um, telecommunication centers, sometimes data centers. Now, just being in that industry just makes me appreciate how mind-boggling this process is. Now, just think about it. All of us are all on our devices. I'm speaking, it goes into my device, and then it is encoded from my voice into electric signals. It goes through optical fibers, goes into antennas. It gets over to wherever you are, on a cell, or on a mast. It gets decoded. It comes into your device, your phone or your tablet, and then you can hear everything. It is marvelous. So communication is really a huge process. But we're not talking about all of that. No, no, no. So it's how can we be effective health, safety, and environment professionals or sustainability professionals? Because a lot of health and safety professionals are venturing into sustainability. And that requires collaboration, that requires engagement. And that is what we do when we communicate. When we communicate, we typically are engaging people, we're listening, and we're trying to engage. And that comes back to the clear values. Okay. We want to communicate on incident reports or investigation. As HSE professionals, we are very good at identifying hazards, okay? Be it electrical hazards or mechanical or equipment hazards, or could manual handling or fire or confined space, work at height, hazardous substances, noise, radiation. But it's one thing to identify that, we need to also communicate it well, okay? Also, in the standards, you have risk assessment. We also have to communicate risk assessments when they are conducted, because after they need to be communicated to who will be affected by the risk assessment, right? Training and awareness is also another element of communication. In the in the ISO standards, you've got clauses on training and awareness. For example, for communication, you have clause 7.4. So, and that's about communication and communicating to internal and external. It's just part of what we do. Compliance with regulation and standards, we want to communicate that to to our internal parties. Policies, procedures, changes. So, regardless of what sector you find yourself, regardless of what sector you find yourself, you would always have interested parties. You'd always have issues. These interested parties could be internal, external. They could be suppliers. They could be customers or clients, or they could be employees. They could be regulators. They could be members of your industries. You know, and that takes us to clause 4.1, the context of communication. If you're an ISO person, it's just critical communication, and communicating policies, procedures, and changes. Now, so these are things that we communicate, but what could be the hindrance in communicating or barriers? Now, if there was an interference in the signal, it would be difficult for you to um, listen to me or comprehend what I'm saying. Sometimes in communication, we call that interference noise. So as as professionals too, we also need to think about what are some barriers that could, you know, that could hamper effective communication in HSE. One of them is language and cultural differences. Um, I know many of you speak more than one languages, and that's amazing. Um, and sometimes without us knowing, you know, we have more like a heavy accent when we speak. Sometimes the language that could affect the way we are understood. But besides speaking English, you also have Pidgin. You also have you know um Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Efik, so many languages, in motherland. There's so many. So language could be a barrier. If the other person is not understanding that same language, definitely will be a barrier. It could be cultural differences. Um, one thing I appreciate coming to a different country is, for example, in the UK, when you speak, they want you to look into the eyes and communicate to them. It shows that you're engaged. But in terms of cultural differences, it might be different. So growing up, as a very young, respectful boy, when you speak, you don't look directly into the eyes of of your older ones. Sometimes it might just be a bit disrespectful. So these nuances could be barriers in terms of cultural differences, and there are so many of them. Technical jargon. Ah, HSC professionals, we have a first class when it comes to technical jargons. We are really good. PPE, MSDs, MSDS, KOSH. We're very good at acronyms, but not everyone might understand all those acronyms. You know, for example, I said MSDS, MSDs. One means master safety data shit. The other musculoskeletal um, disorders. WURLs, you know, that's um, work related upper limb disorders. Now, these could be different jargons we use, but sometimes we need to simplify things. These are some barriers. Hierarchical and organizational barriers. You might find yourself in an organization whereby communication goes from top to the bottom, but doesn't go from bottom to the top, and that's because of hierarchy. And in a setting like that, that could really inhibit the flow of communication or feedback. Or sometimes hierarchical organization barriers could be, say, managers acting as gateway. Give a manager a feedback, and that's a ceiling. That's where it ends. It doesn't go up. Or it could be, so much hierarchy focus that junior staff or younger personnel find it difficult to communicate to leaders or managers. These are some issues when it comes to communication. Time constraints. We're too busy, and that could happen when there is inadequate resource. So if there's inadequate resource, it might affect how effectively we communicate. Eh, or it could even be in terms of our tools for communicating. Lack of clarity. And then one other barrier is when we do not clearly understand the content, our audience. When there's lack of clarity, it could distort our message in terms of clarity. So these are some barriers we need to take note of. Um, now, but despite these barriers, we can be effective. We can be very effective. And to be effective, we need to think about when it comes to communicating. We need to think of who needs to communicate. So who's communicating? What is the objective? What needs to be communicated? What mediums and methods? Who is receiving it? So you need to think of your audience. and you need to adapt your communication or tailor it to your audience. You need to think about what am I communicating? What is my objective? Am I informing? Am I making a report? Am I trying to motivate them to action, to change a behavior? Um, so we could communicate for different reasons. We could communicate for different reasons. So we need to think of these different aspects when communicating. Now, one area which I'll use myself as an example. One area which I think personally, as a professional, we keep on improving is active listening. And this active listening is also one of the skills in the Irish competency framework under communication. And what is active listening? It just means giving your undivided attention to the speaker, maintaining eye contact, repeating back. So active listening is you listening, you know, not with the intent to respond, but to clearly understand. And it shows respect. It shows respect. Personally, it's something that I've had to develop myself to really improve on. And I think it's a very important skill that that's part of communication that HS professional need to learn to be effective communicators. Um, Now, like I said, I can't exhaust everything about communication, but there's something I've left out here, which I thought I would mention intentionally. It's called the seven C's of communication. And the seven C's of communication, basically, you can read up on it, but I'll just give you highlights. I focused on only two here. Seven C's of communication refer to one, being clear, and being clear means that we are unequivocal, we're unambiguous. It means being concise. And when we're concise, we're succinct, we're straight to the point. It also means being concrete. So concrete, solid, back whatever you say with good facts and figures, good stuff. Being correct, being that's the fourth C. It means that you're accurate. Be sure of what you're saying. Being complete. Being complete means wholeness, whole, not missing in anything. So that's how our communication should be. And um, the other C is being coherent. So being coherent, there should be a flow in our communication. And finally, um, missed out a C now. Try to remember them. Um, I'll come back to it if I remember it. So, but out of the seven C's, the two very important C's is clear and concise messaging. Sometimes the meaning, the importance of what we say could get lost. So avoid using technical jargon or complex terminology and focus on simple and straightforward language. Very important point. Storytelling. Recently in the PSJ is the Professional Safety Journal. It's one of the journals of the American Societies of Safety Professionals. Fantastic journal. I really recommend it for everyone out there. In one of the recent articles, it talked about storytelling and how HSC professionals can use storytelling to communicate their messages. So it's really something that we all need to build on. Non-verbal communication. Of course, you've got different forms of communication. You've got verbal, and this is verbal, and I'm speaking. But non-verbal communication, you know, is what it is. Non-verbal, body language, the tone of our voice, our facial expressions. These can convey just as much information as spoken words. So this is really, really important. When, for example, I'll give you an example. So incident investigation is something that we lead or we are part of in our organization as HSE professional. But in investigating an incident, you have to ask questions. And in asking questions, what is your tone? Your tone of voice could signify blame or accountability. Really, really important. So our tone of voice, our facial expressions, sometimes there could be a gap between the intent of what we want to say and the impact. So we must be mindful of our audience, understand their context, understand their limitation. What do they know about the subject? And try as much as possible to be clear and concise. And in communicating, still on being effective, we want to create a safe space for people to ask questions. Okay. So when people ask questions, we do not want to make them feel inferior or respond to them in a condescending way, such that they might just regret asking that question. No, but having that safe space is trying to encourage people, to actually to ask those questions, to communicate. By doing so, we foster good discussions in whatever meetings what we find ourselves. And then the last one is technology enabled communication. Back then, um, you know, you would have memos being typed on typewriter. No, these days we got emails and we got email applications. So we need to leverage the tools. So whatever your organization uses, if your organization uses Microsoft Outlook, please, that's a great communication tool. You need to leverage it well, okay? As well as before 2020, no one knew about well, there was video conferencing, but an app like Zoom wasn't very popular. But you got Zoom, you've got MS Teams. These are great tools that we can use to be effective in terms of our communication. So as health and safety professionals, environmental professionals, sustainability professionals, we want to be adept at using these tools and be effective. And of course, you got etiquette when it comes to using these tools. So if somebody sends you an email, they expect that you should respond to it or acknowledge it, within a given period of time. Not in 1 week's time. No. At least it just shows that um, we were responsible. So these are some of the etiquettes. There are lots of them out there. I can't list all of them here. And then knowing what tool to use, you know. So when is it appropriate to use instant messaging? When is it appropriate to have a face-to-face conversation rather than have send an email? Okay, as a general rule or of thumb, if your email is going to be too long that someone struggles to read and understand, go and have a conversation. Go and have a conversation on the topic. So effective communication is a very important critical skill, and it enhances other EHS skills. Remember I talked about INSPO and IOSH competency framework. Now, on INSPO capability framework as well as IOSH competency framework, you've got a list of different um, different skills: teamwork, change management, um, problem solving, critical thinking skills, and so on and so forth. Quite a strategy, diversity and inclusion, influencing, stakeholder management, inspiring people. All those skills cannot really function well if we don't communicate well. So communication is really a great skill. And the truth is, we can always get better at it. Some of us are natural and gifted communicators. We speak very eloquently. Some of us stammer or stutter, but skills can be learned. They can be cultivated, and you could cultivate these skills by learning and on from different resources. One of the resources I really find very helpful for soft skills is LinkedIn Learning. If you have a subscription or if you have an opportunity to take a course on LinkedIn Learning, very great tool, and that is what safety professionals really want to improve on as we grow. Um, Communication, build on what we know, and we'll get there. Now, um, remember I spoke about the seven C's of communication. The last one I left out was courteous. So courteous means polite. We want to be polite in our communication. So clear, concise, correct, complete, concrete, courteous, and coherent. All right. So we've talked about communication. Now let's have a look at networking and how this really connects um, with our professional growth. So networking, you know, we're not talking about network engineering now and fiber optics and no, we're talking about networking professionally. It's the process of building and maintaining relationship with others in your industry or profession. So why is it important? It's really important because when we leave our comfort zone, when we leave our space and we go meet other professionals and we attend professional networking events, it helps us to stay updated on industry trends and best practices, regulatory changes, and career guidance. Um, we can also share knowledge and expertise and experience with others. So we can build a relationship with colleagues, clients, and stakeholders if we avail ourselves, if we take advantage. So networking could be formal, it could be informal, it could be an online networking. It could be an online networking. So this, for example, um, is a knowledge sharing session. You could call it a training session, but it could also be a tool for networking, you know, where people engage and, share messages, you know, perhaps at the end of the session. So what how important is networking? Now, it is so important, like I mentioned at the outset with my experience. I'll come back to that story. I know you really want to hear the outcome of that, but I will definitely come back to it. But now the question is, um, how can you how can you build a professional network, and what resources do we have for building professional networks? Now, you need to identify key stakeholders and influencers in your industry. So, um, some industries are very niche, like aviation. And the fact that you worked in manufacturing doesn't mean you will excel in aviation. So, for example, if aviation is a sector that you're looking to you're looking to work in, identifying who are some of the health and safety professionals that are key stakeholders there. There could be power. So, or it could be or some of the influencers. There are lots of them out there. Some of them are really into awards and event ceremony. But I tell you, they've got a lot of contacts. These can help you. Um, but when we attend industry events, conferences, and trade shows, we're also building a professional network. You can also join professional associations and online communities. So talking about professional associations, ASSP is one really great one. And the Nigerian chapter has been really active for many years. You also have IOS, you've got ISPON, I'm a member of ISPON. You've got NES, Nigerian Environmental Society. We've got the MNES. I'm not here to list all of them, but there are a number of local and international health and safety professional association, and they could really beneficial. Online communities, some of these associations have groups. Some of them could be on WhatsApp. So one way we can build a professional network is being out there, speaking to people, you know, and being prepared to also share our perspective and ideas. In some of those events, we can pick people's brain on what their perspective is are on, industry trends and how they will affect, future activities and so on. Great place to have conversation. Um, and connect with colleagues, friends, and acquaintances through social media. So, one of the great social media apps, for networking is LinkedIn. Of course, you know that. So some professional associations have accounts on Twitter. ASSP is on Twitter. As some have on Instagram too, on Facebook. So while you might say, oh, they are social media account, but therefore, but to be fair, you've got Facebook groups sometimes in some of these platforms or groups and some of the platforms that are just professional oriented, but LinkedIn is a very good one. So try to build an account there. Try to build a profile there. Update your profile. Make it attractive. It could be attractive for recruiters as well as um, others. But the way to build your network is not by adding everyone on LinkedIn and having 10,000 followers. No, well, you could build your professional network, leveraging networking by writing interesting articles, by sharing your perspective on different topics. By sharing your training certifications. Oh, I've just completed this. It's just sharing with my network. I might inspire someone. That is it. So know how to use the video conferencing tools, Zoom, Skype, Google Meet, and you have a number of them too. Mobile apps for networking. You've got WhatsApp too. On WhatsApp, we've got many groups on WhatsApp. This WhatsApp groups are so many, but good space for networking. Now, what are some of the challenges that we could have that could stop us from networking? Introversion and shyness. That is one. Not everyone is outspoken. Some people are natural introverts, and they would rather, keep to themselves than speak or share any info. But be out there, prepare ahead of time. So if you're going for a conference, look at the sometimes you will get right there a list of all the topics that's going to be covered by the speakers. Prepare ahead. What could the speaker speak on? Focus on listening. Um, Ask open-ended questions. What, why, where. Um, Asking questions really shows how vested your interest is on the topic, and it could just be a basis for you to build a good relationship with the speaker. And then we talked about another reason before, but we applied it to communication, cultural or language barriers. Okay, so if you go for an international conference, you might have that, you might see that as a barrier because you don't understand, you know, so much about other people, people's culture. No, learn about them. If you really want to make someone smile, say hello to them in their own language. Like recently, we had an Irish had a conference in Ghana. We've also had conferences here in Nigeria. We've had conferences in other parts of the world. Just learn a simple greeting in their language. Oh, okay, we had one in Zambia. Just learn a simple greeting in your language and say hello in that language. You can't just help but start a great conversation. Use simple, language, avoid jargon. Um, One other constraint is time constraint. People feel, oh, too busy to attend networking events. No, prioritize it. So 2025 is coming. Ask yourself, what will be the conferences in 2025? Which of them can I plan to attend? Book out your calendar for 2025. If if it's something that your organization can sponsor, have a conversation with your manager before the end of the year, saying this is what I plan to do as part of my professional development, and then use that opportunity. Sometimes some conferences might be in person or face to face, or they might be online. So plan to attend. You need to schedule that time and prioritize it. Sometimes when building your network, one of the greatest fear, people fear rejection or unresponsiveness, but don't take it personal. Um, for example, you might want to connect with someone on LinkedIn, and after days and weeks, your connection request is not accepted. You might feel you might really feel discouraged. No, or you might meet a contact, ask him in the conference, can I have your card at the end of a conference? And they say, sorry, I can't. I have no card for you, but yet you see him hand a card to another person. It might really, but sometimes we need to look beyond that so that we can get the best of our on our network. And finally, we're getting to the end of this. It's coming up to 40 minutes now. I'm going to give you that very interesting story about how one professional event really was like a catapult or catalyst in my career. So um yeah, I'll take you back to this slide which I started with. So This was in 2015. Then ASSP was ASSE, American Society of Safety Engineers, and was my first professional conference. Um, I really don't look like what I look like now, yes, but that was Rodriguez, that was Ibokwe, Chuks, and that was Julius Rhodes. Now, I'll start with Julius Rhodes. Julius Rhodes isn't he wasn't, and I'm sure he still isn't a HSE professional. But till 10 years later, 10 years being an ESSP member, one thing that stuck with me in the presentation um, was the topic. He talked about branding. Yeah, branding. How professionals can really build a brand, and the communication was a fantastic um, um, presentation, and I still remember it till today. And then the gentleman in the middle with his hand in his pocket. Um, After I attended this session, I made three career goals, or we all set goals for ourselves. And one of them I made was, look, I was going to be a CSP, and that was where Chukwuka Ibokwe, became useful. He was my CSP mentor, so he mentored me. And in 2018, in August 2018 precisely, I took the CSP exam and I passed. Thanks to him for his great support, and I still regard him as my mentor because he was really very supportive. Um, and the other goal I set for myself following my networking attendance there in 2015 was I told myself I was going to present as a speaker in one of the conferences. And in 2018 too, I was one of the speakers in ASSP PDC in Nigeria, and I presented on risk management and how useful it is for EHS professionals, basing on ISO 1331000. And the other goal I set for myself, unfortunately, I haven't really met it, but I'm happy to share it here. It was to attend an ESSP conference, but attend an international one. There's usually one in the US. But um, in this same conference, I met Dakbo, I met Jamu. I was in EMSO then in 2015. And one thing that I did with the contacts, I'll tell you one thing I did in 2015, while I was in EMSO, my HSE, I had the opportunity to be promoted to HSE manager. And the next year, one thing I did was with the HSE team, we organized the World Day for Health and Safety in EMSO. Guess who attended as speakers? Dakbo was there live. And how did I meet Dakbo? I met Dakbo in this networking event. So this um Jamu Badmos was also there, very supportive, came. Ibokwe came to the event in 2017. And following on from there, this is one networking event. I look back and I say, you know, I really, really gained a lot. Now this is me sharing my experience to perhaps inspire some imagine professional thinking of how can I grow in my career. Okay, that's why I've just shared this, just simply for information. And now, just to conclude, um, uh, um, just the last slide on conclusion on what we should do going forward. So build your professional network today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Attend industry events, join online communities, and connect with colleagues and peers. Okay, prioritize effective communication in your daily work by actively listening, using clear and concise language, and being aware of non-verbal cues. And finally, like we talked about, leverage technology to enhance your networking event efforts. Don't forget the importance of face-to-face interactions and building meaningful relationships. So just a summary of everything we've talked about, how important communication is and how important networking is in terms of building a successful career and growing in our profession. All right, so that's all from me. Thank you so very much for giving me your time, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Jason, for that wonderful, wonderful presentation and reminding us of the importance of networking. Because, sometimes when we have the opportunity for conferences, the next thing you hear is, how much is the conference fee? Then by the time they tell you the conference fee, they are like, the conference fee is about 80K. 80K. What do you mean by 80K just for conference? But to tell you the truth, what you live with after the conference is something that sticks with you. So it's very, very important for us to make use of whatever opportunities that we have for us to network with others. It could be conferences, it could be workshops, it could be different forms of symposium and the rest. So let's always try to make use of that opportunity. And with that, that brings us to the question and answer session, which will be anchored by Diseye. So Diseye, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Buki. Jason, thanks so much for that presentation. It's also a wake-up call for all of us. We need to keep improving. I'm a HSE professional who communicates effectively, and I'll show you a successful one because we're into communicating and talking and engaging. So it's really timely. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Thanks.
We'll just go into the question. For now, I can see just one question, and I'll take it. That's from Olufemi Abiodun. And he's asking, if your salary is small and your organization is not sponsoring you for conferences, what can you do?
Okay, this is Daniel Osadiaye. I have a question after that. Thank you.
No problem.
Oga Daniel, I greet you, sir.
Jason, well done now.
Right, so Jason, can you take Olufemi's question? Asking what
Okay.
happens if you have a small salary and your organization is not willing to sponsor you for conferences? Can you advise? Thank you.
All right. So that's a very great question, and I think it's a challenge that faces in a lot of professionals. And I won't even mince words. I won't even mince words. A lot of us know. Some people say, look, the safety profession seems to be expensive. Not safety. No, 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 no. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying safety is expensive because we know what we say. We say, you know, we say if safety is expensive, try an accident. Not safety. We're talking about the safety profession in terms of, when you think of the cost of even membership with some of these foreign professional institutes, or the cost of say attending a certification. But it is an investment. So you see it as an investment. So in some cases, you might work with some organizations, and there might be no training budget, for you know for competence and development or professional development. There might be none. So, but you need to look at this and plan for it. So, if so, I tell you, one thing I love about the ASSP conference in particular is, over the years they have been they have always been subsidized. I mean, like, when I think of the value of some of those conferences I've attended, typically like ASSP, some of them are, 3 days. On top of that, you go to chop lunch, and it's fantastic fun, what you learn. So some of them are just, in investment, and you have to plan for it, save for it, and it's not too much. I think, back then it was 30K, for, or less. IOSH had a conference. I think they usually do for Western, and free. Just register and go for it. So in most cases, it's, if you appreciate it, you will make time for it, because you see that it's an investment in your future, it's an investment in your career, and then you begin to plan for it. So you need to ask yourself, I've got training, I've got conferences. Which of them do I want to attend? In a conference, you could have up to 20 speakers, and 20 speakers, 20 topics. Some not up to 20 speakers. So, I think that's why one of the concluding slides says prioritize. prioritize. Okay, you may not be able to afford 2, 3 conferences every year. No, if it's just one and one is free, it's fine. But then if you can also talk to your employer about the value of those conferences, I know like the ASSP, for the ASSP, you can, or even you can print a letter for your employer. Yeah, I think, and give it to employer, and that you could recover your costs. Or you could use that as a justification for why this is important. There's more like a template on online for some of the international conferences. But that's my 2 cents on the on the question. I think it's an investment, see that way. And there are lots of free conferences, and these days some of them are online. So leverage technology, attend the online if you can transport yourself there, and if you can make time for it, please do. It's a great investment.
All right, thank you so much, Jason. That was done. We're running out of time, but we'll take Daniel's question, and then I will take Ajibola and Abel's question, and then we'll wrap it up. Back to you, Daniel, please. You have the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for putting this together. And thanks to Jason for a wonderful presentation. Mine is not actually a question. It's just like an advice to fellow professionals about networking and going in there to get one or few things. The first comment I want to make, that when we do network, we are, especially we from this side of Africa, we are too much in a haste, always asking for a favor. We should desist from doing that. Because most times, especially when we see the other counterpart, like the white, the first thing when you just meet, you want to ask for a favor. No, that is not what networking is. But let's take the ingredient or the subject why we really want to meet that person, personal development, which is a key. The last question that was asked, when if I have a low income and everything, like Jesse said, prioritize, and is an investment. You understand? It's an investment. Like this year, I prioritize all my trainings, all my conferences and everything. If your company cannot afford it, you should be able to plan ahead and say that, okay, this is what I will do. So the most important thing in networking, don't always ask for some flimsy favor. It puts a lot of people off. You are meeting person before the first two talk, you are like asking for one request or the other. It doesn't go well at all. It's not a professional way. The type of favor that you need is when you have built that relationship to the extent that, okay, both can be a both way. Let's do this together. Let's collaborate. Let's do this and everything. It's always like from us to, especially to the white, it's always one way. Jason was, as he said, he did a presentation during my time as president of ASSP in 2018, 2019. It was a nice presentation. And I also brought some international speakers. It was through networking that I have attended those international conferences in US. You understand? So, and ASSP did not pay a couple. Those guys flew in by themselves. We only accommodated them. You understand? So networking is a key thing in our business, in our way of living, but we should know when and how, so that we should not go beyond the boundary. I do want to take much of our time. That's all I have today. Thank you, Jason, for this wonderful presentation. I hope other people will learn a lot from it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Daniel. We'll go over to Ajibola's question, and he's asking, if you start a conversation with clear and concise discussion, and somewhere along the line you realize that you weren't coherent in terms of your points, what do you do?
That's a good question. So if you weren't clear, if you weren't concise, but sorry, did you say clear and concise but not coherent, or clear?
Yes, Yes, it says you start your conversation with clear and concise discussion. So you start on a good note, but somewhere along the line, you realize your incoherence in terms of your points. What can you now do? How do you pick up from there?
Well, that's fine. I think no one is born, a William Shakespeare, especially because English is not our first language, or like our mother tongue. So we have to learn it, and we're not native speakers. So sometimes there might be a lack of coherence, and that's understandable. Um, I think if you were clear and you were concise, and but perhaps the manner in which your information was presented was maybe disjointed, or it just was not logical. Um, it's a good thing that you realized that it wasn't logical, or it didn't flow as it should. Then what you could do is um, you could you could restate your points clearly and then logically. That's what I do sometimes. But again, you could also take a lesson from it and then think about preparing adequately. Thinking about preparing adequately, and when you prepare adequately, sometimes it just gives you a better opportunity to be clear, to be clearer, to be concise, and also to arrange your points logically. And preparation could mean um, maybe sharing your presentation or sharing your thoughts with someone and asking for inputs. Um, and then based on of that input, taking that feedback to actually work on your presentation. So I think it's all about stating it correctly. So accurately, that's great. Be polite about it. Um, um, be clear, be concise, be complete, and then coherence can be improved. Coherence can be improved. I think it's just restating it, and if you know that this will be logically and improved in the way you're going to restate it, it works for me though. But I'm happy to get more inputs from the floor on how anyone has addressed such a situation.
All right, thank you, Jason, for that feedback. I believe in such a situation, sometimes there are cases when you try to communicate, and just like he has asked, you find yourself, you know, in a bit or you're not coordinated. I think the way I address things like that is you have to consciously bounce back, because communication, like everybody who speaks will tell you, it's not so convenient for anybody, no matter how long
Mm,
you have been, speaking. It's
mm,
always not so convenient. But when you find out that maybe you're uneasy, you don't feel too okay with the things you're saying, you can always bounce back and then, let it flow. But it's not a time to hit yourself or be too hard on yourself and say, oh no, why did I do this? No. And then the best way to do it is to keep doing it. When you keep communicating, you become better at communicating. When you keep writing, you become better at writing. All right, thank you. That's my one cent. So last question, we've actually run out of time. That's from Abel, and he's asking how you can
Can I
use.
just say something?
Yes, you want to contribute? Okay, quickly,
Yeah,
please.
just contribute on the coherence. So I think the first thing is don't take yourself too seriously. If you have prepared well, what I do is if I've prepared well and I get stuck, I'll just use a bit of humor. Abuse yourself small. This presentation does not want to go my way, but it will not work. Relax. When you throw in a joke, throw in some humor, people will relax and then you cannot pick yourself up. But if you are concentrating too much on being perfect, in fact, most likely you make mistake, and when you make mistake, you panic and you lose concentration.
Absolutely. Thank you,
certainly.
Lufemi. Thanks for that addition. All right, so he's asking what communication strategy can be adopted if you realize your organization values production ahead of safety. So how can you break even using communication strategy to achieve success?
I think communication is not just a tool that is used in isolated way. No, it enhances other skills. So now think about communication and being an ISO person. I'm just going to apply what the standard says. You need to think of the needs and expectations of your parties. So In this case, let's say it's production, okay, or your organization. When you think about the needs and expectations of your um, of of your party in this case, and then in which is say is a department production. Now, how can you present communication in such a way that it will be impactful? Now, one thing that businesses love is they love numbers, they love charts, um, and they love a logical cost benefits analysis. So if, for example, as a HSE professional, you're trying to say propose a solution using, say, training. So there's been an increase in incidents or so increase in unsafe conditions reported or hazards, and you've consulted, involved the relevant people, and you think this will be a corrective action, an effective one. Um, Now, for it to really make sense, you need to understand, okay, like we said, who's this communication going to, my target audience? How can I really make so if it's production and if it's and most times you got senior managers in production, and most times it's not just about production, it's about the organization. You're trying to put your communication in numbers, in charts, and to say, okay, this is the cost of this incident, and this is the cost of this training, and this will translate to this cost saving, and this is why. So and this is why we should do it in justified in a logical way. So I think one of the barriers for clear communication is when we don't have a good relationship with, with our receptor. So when we have a good relationship, then we understand the needs and expectations, and then they will be, more receptive to accept our communication, one, and two, then the strategy is about tailoring or adapting the communication in such a way that, it will be impactful. Numbers, charts, return on investment, CBA, cost benefit analysis, it's something that works for a lot of professionals, and that's my suggestion.
All right, thank you for Jason. That will be all the questions we can take, but we've just heard about networking, so I believe the attendees of this meeting can connect with you on LinkedIn and every other medium so that they can, take it up from here if they have other questions. Is that okay, Jason?
Yes, thank you very much, Dise. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, sure. I can also see one or two questions asking about how to become fully certified members. Question for the emerging professionals administrator to speak to after the session. Thanks everyone for your contribution, and the conversation was very, very insightful. Thanks again, Jason. I'll hand over to Buki. Thank you.
Thank you, Dise, and thank you, Jason, for that beautiful presentation. Please, you can stop sharing your screen so that
Okay.
we can share your certificate.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm still sharing. Okay. Am I still sharing? I thought I stopped.
No, you're still sharing. I'm still seeing your screen.
Okay. Okay, I get it. Stop share. Thank you.
All right. So, Jason, you know that we would always come back to you.
You said this is the last time, Buki.
I said it the last time and we came back. So just to tell you ahead of time that when we come back again, like Oliver Twist, please grant us audience.
Oh, thank you so
So
much.
to make this presentation of this certificate, I call on Mr. Daniel Osadiaye to make the presentation. Mr. Dan.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
can
thank
hear
you very
you.
much. Thank you very much. Okay, Jesse, at ASSP, we don't have a silver and gold, but and we don't have the cash. You are part of us, and what we have is from the bottom of our hearts. So we want to first of all thank you very much for this great and wonderful insight presentation. I can always tell people networking is a very good thing. This presentation was just what we needed as a professional. Because I personally have gained a lot for being network. It has made me break a lot of barriers in what I do in life and everything. So on behalf of ASSP Nigeria chapter, please accept this token from us, certificate of appreciation on behalf of the organization and the chapter as a whole. Thank you very much. Just like Buki said, we will always call on you anytime. I know you will not fail us. Thank you, and God bless you. Just take it as a token from us. We appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Received with a ton of thanks. Thank you very much.
So, Jesse, then this is just a personal one. Let's talk after this so that we can see way of going to Florida next year.
Okay, thank you.
No, we still have like 7 months to the event. We can plan ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'll reach out to you. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dan, for that, and indirectly reminding us of next year's conference.
We have to start from home first. I believe that let's start from home, and the home conference is coming up around April. So we should start saving our money, because you know the cost of living is high in Nigeria, so that we will not say that we win the executive, they give you enough time. So we should campaign on that more now than the international one.
Okay, so with that, I think you can also give us more feedback, because the next item is updates from Nigeria chapter and ASSP Global. So I think you've already started giving us feedback on the global conference. So you can give us any other information on the Nigerian conference that you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me inform people that are online. I'm the current vice membership chair for the vice, that's the common interest group. And from September this year, the subscription fees have actually changed. And right now, for Nigeria chapter, you can pay the international fee is $80, while the Nigeria chapter fee is $30. Now, the good thing about it is that once you pay that international fee of $80, you can join any common interest group and any specialty, just for you to pick which area of specialty that you want. That is the good news about that. So I'm encourage everybody as a vice membership for you to choose vice as your common interest group, because we have a lot of goodies that are going on, and our current administrator is a very, very good guy in terms of webinar and presentation. We are having a lot of presentation every month, and one is even coming this December 7th, I think so. I will publish it on the general platform. So why am I saying this? The new subscription allows you to choose any common interest group. You don't need to pay that $20 that you used to pay to join any specialty or common interest group. So it's not like a free-for-all program. Do we get that? So just pay your subscription, go to your profile, and tick whichever one you want to belongs to. That's just what I have on international information for now. And also, just like this topic signify, you can also go to the international website. There are a lot of opportunity for joining some communities. That's also where you can build your networking skill. Like me, I belong to a lot, the advisory group, the task force, and many more. But I encourage each and every one, always visit the global website. It's very, very important if you want to grow your career in ASSP. That is just the information I have for you. Thank you very much, Buki, for that.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
Buki,
for the people that are asking questions on how to join ASSP, later we can drop the phone number of our ambassador Efike Napodia. He'll guide you through on membership and everything you need to do. So we'll drop his number on the chat group, and you can always reach out to him for your membership and how you want to join. And you can also go
Yeah,
to the Nigeria ASSP chapter website
you
too.
are correct.
Hello,
Something.
sir, you can go ahead.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank the presenter Justin for. I was listening with rapt attention, but I don't want to distort anything. And your presentation was very insightful. Sorry, my name is Toluluba. I'm the current president of ASSP Nigeria chapter. I joined about 5 or 10 minutes late due to some reasons, and I've been following. I'm very impressed with the emerging professional group of ISSP. They have been very astonishing in the coordinating of this group. I'm Buki and your team. I say thank you so much. God bless you. Jason, thank you for the insightful presentation. And for Dan, for the information he has given, very appropriate. But for Nigeria chapter, like we said, our conference is in April next year, and the call for paper for presentation is already out. And I'm pretty sure that Buki will work on justice so that it can be one of the presenters of our conference. Because you have already given him notification, and I'm sure Justin heard the way you say you revert back to him. So, as the president, I'm extending your so that it can be put on notice. And the conference, we have already called for paper, and you can check Nigeria websites. The information will be there, and other things will follow. We'll keep updating and editing our information as we get closer. So thank you very much for the presentation. Thanks, Daniel, for the information and the presentation of the certificate. I'm Buki and your team. Kudos to you guys. I appreciate you all. Thanks.
President, before you cut, quick one. I know this is a general house. I will advise your PDC planning team, because of the high cost of living, let the conference fee be hard on time so that people can plan and save towards it. That is just my candid advice. We have less than 5 months. It's better people start planning. Thank you.
It's okay. That advice is taken. That advice is taken. But bearing in mind the cost of inflation from last year to this year, you can use your tongue to count your teeth, but we'll come with it. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Thank you for that. Okay, I'm done here. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, President. I didn't know that you were on this call, but it's good to know that our president is always with us while we do what we do. So with that, I'll call on Abanom to take the photograph. So if you know that you are in a convenient place that you can put on your cameras, please put on your cameras for the pictures to be taken.
Okay,
And
not
then
a convenient place.
While that is going on behalf of the Emerging Professionals Network, I want to say thank you so much for spending your time to be with us on this Saturday morning. We know that Saturdays are usually days for laundry, resting, and every other thing that we would want to do, but you took out that time to be here with us, and we're grateful to Jason too for giving us his time and sharing his knowledge. And Jason, just for you to know, I've dropped the flyer for the PDC topics for next year on your WhatsApp page. So please look at it, just as the president said. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time, for your contributions and everything. And we look forward to being with you sometime next month. We'll share the information on that. So thank you and enjoy your weekend. Bye, everyone.
Have you taken the picture?
No, not yet.
Bye.
Have you taken the picture?